Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Season 6, Episode 2 with In the Vine. We are so excited to be here today, but of course, here with me today I have
Denise,
Shekinah,
Yessie,
and we're going to continue our conversation about, or our topic about culture shock. And today's trendy topic is about homesteading. And believe it or not, we've been having like a dialogue amongst ourselves because some of us, I'm not going to say names, are not about it. Others, some of us are just curious about it. And Shekinah, what's your take on it?
honestly, I think it's really cool. I'm not sure if it's something I would fully commit to though.
Yeah.
But I think it's really, really cool.
I actually think out of all of us, you'd be the one to do it.
Oh yeah.
Like you're,
I thought you were already doing
I
it.
know. You're literally the country girl.
I just let the record show when she says I'm not about it. Like I'm with Shekinah. Props to those that can do it. That's just not the lifestyle that I can live right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But God has been shifting a lot in my mind. I didn't think I was always a city girl, and I was just like, I love camping and I love going, but I like visiting. I like visiting cabins. I like going. But now I live in the mountains and everything's shifting. I'm a nature girl now. I'm full blown hippie. So yeah, I'd probably the direction I'm going. I'm probably gonna end up getting.
I'm sure.
Getting one. So
I'm sure.
You just need to start with your sourdough kit.
Yep.
oh yeah,
bro.
that's where it all. It's all where it starts.
You already did make some bread though, didn't you? But it wasn't sourdough.
It wasn't sourdough, but I started making bread.
What was it again?
It's okay. This is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. She's a homesteader.
No,
Yeah.
it's so cool.
It's already done.
It's only 2 ingredients, and I was like, I have these 2 ingredients. It's just flour and Greek yogurt, and you make a dough, and it legit makes fluffy, beautiful.
Can you bring us
tasty
some?
bread.
I was just going to
you-
say that.
You saw it on Instagram, huh?
I did.
Because I was on In the Vine and there was a video that popped up on the.
Is
and
she
I'm
the
like,
one?
Why is there so many food wheels on
that-
In the Vine?
You're
And
the one.
I
me.
saved them.
I save all the
And I
recipes
saved
from
that.
Instagram. I like to
That
try
makes
all the
sense. Makes
trending
sense.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, I have those 2 ingredients. There's no way. And I like made it, and it was so good.
It looks really good. I
and it was
saved it.
fluffy, and it was just So
We'll let you guys know she's gonna bring some next
oh
Sunday.
yeah, oh yeah. So there you go. Just 2 ingredients, guys. Telling you, it works.
I can do anything as long as it's less than 3 ingredients. as long as it's called cereal.
Wow.
Okay, Yessie, I know that you have the question for this one, right? What was it?
Yeah, let's do it. I thought it was a really fun question. So I'm going to ask all of you guys right now.
Yessie has a top 8 on her phone. That's crazy. Or top 9.
Oh, yeah. I keep moving it because sometimes it deletes. But wait, that's not it. Let me see. No, that's not it. There's just so many group chats.
I know. She's so popular. And it's with the same people. A variation of like one person.
It's so true. You saw that? Okay. So what do you guys think of this question? Okay, let's be honest.
Okay.
What's your city girl habit that you'd have the hardest time letting go of if you did go off grid?
Oof, long showers. I can answer that right away.
That's a good one.
That's always been
didn't
hard. Even when I
think
travel, if they tell me like it's always been the hardest one. Gotta cut down your showers to 5 minutes. I'm like,
Oh, and
45-minute.
think about how
on
water-
average hot shower.
The shower is only 5 minutes, but like the thinking, the sitting under the water, like
Exactly.
it requires a process. For
It's a
sure.
whole process. Yeah, no. Showers have always been. I can give
But
up
if you
just
were
about
off
anything.
grid and in a like RV, but you were still just off grid, like no Wi-Fi though.
That's where I would get a gym membership and just use the shower.
Smart.
That's what they do here.
Smart.
I've seen that.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be, I had it in the, pest control. Because off the grid, dude, off the grid, when I went camping that one time, there was skunks running around and I was like, I'm not paying attention. And then like, you just hear a whole bunch of animals. Crows would wake me up. They still wake me up at my house actually. But yeah, no, pest control would be the number one thing.
Do you still have a squirrel?
Yeah. Can you talk about the squirrels? Have you talked about
Did I
the
not
squirrels?
talk about it?
I don't think you did.
I don't think she's mentioned it.
You guys, I had a freaking squirrel living in my wall. It was. So
was
to
his
answer your
name?
question now, what did we name it? It was at your mom's birthday that we named it.
Wasn't Charles or something?
Charles. We named it in Charles,
And you would actually see him, like you would see his little face pop in. No, okay, never mind.
Oh no, that was a meme that we saw.
Oh, that's
with the
right.
rat.
Okay,
So no
Just scratch
squirrel.
that.
Yeah, no.
That's
But
misinformation.
no longer have a squirrel. I had a squirrel living in my wall for like a month or so.
But where was he living?
What you mean?
Next to your bed.
Next to my bed, literally. Yeah. Maybe not literally, but almost literally. I remember I got home one night and I kept hearing like an animal scratch at my wall, but I thought it was like on the outside because I tend to keep like the window cracked open. And I was like, one day I'm gonna have to deal with it. And so then, but just like, you know,
Future Melissa.
future Melissa's problem. And so then one day I was so tired. I remember specifically, I was so tired. And I got home and I remember I finally like laid on my bed, turned off my light. And something just like, you know, when in like those movies where you just like peel your eyes open, it was like, not peel your eyes open, but just like, you're caught in the headlights type of thing. I open my eyes and then I see a freaking hole in my wall and like the stuff coming out. And I was like, oh God. So then my sleep went away because now I had to make sure there wasn't a freaking squirrel in my room, which thankfully wasn't. But that started a whole thing in my life.
And she sent a post and she just like put something on top of it.
Yeah, like a butcher's block type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, still there.
But the squirrel's gone.
But the squirrel's gone.
You haven't heard it?
I haven't heard it. No, thankfully.
So it's probably dead?
No. It was dealt with. Ask no questions.
PETA friendly. We're PETA friendly here.
But allegedly, no, I'm just kidding. By the way, just so you guys know, squirrels have a lot of rights in California. They have more rights. They have more
Squatter rights.
Yeah, they have more, like you literally cannot displace a squirrel. Like you can't touch them. You can't do all those.
You can't keep them as a pet
You
because you
can't-
remember what happened.
That was in New
Yes.
York though, but I
Yeah.
mean, one in the same. We might as well share border with it. But yeah, no, squirrels have a lot of rights. They had more rights than I did in my own property, so that'll tell you what the priorities for California. So
Yeah.
They
there you
probably bribed the HOA there.
go. I'm sure. Yeah,
Wow.
they probably bring them nuts.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, back on topic. Pest control for sure.
control.
Denise, what would be yours?
I was gonna say like my coffee Starbucks, but hot water for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love my hot water, and even when we go to Mexico, and we're more civilized where we live now at the ranch, but you still you only get a certain amount of allocated hot water, and so I love my hot showers.
For me, it would definitely be my coffee runs in the mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I start my day. That's what keeps me going. I think of myself like I'm paying myself for today with this drink. And how am I going to do it? Like we've looked at properties that are more than like 30 minutes away from the closest coffee shop. And I'm like, I can't do that. And then you have to be close to gas stations. I always think of that. Like if I'm not close to a gas station, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Because I always go to the last bar on my car. Just imagine.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Gas stations too. That's a thing.
I would want to make sure I'm next to a gas station.
Yeah. Wow. Great question, Yessie.
That was a great question.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is, or the next segment, I guess I should say, is the trend overview. So, as I mentioned, we're talking about homesteading, and so homesteading essentially is, it's been a growing trend, definitely on social media. I know Jess, for example, this is the second time I mentioned Jess, hey girl, you know, like doing the sourdough, right? Like doing the baking and things of that nature. And we have a friend, her name is Ashley, who raises chickens. And which is so funny because it took a long time for those chickens to be producing any sort of eggs, to the point where we're like, dude, just make them caldo already, you know? But they came in clutch. She's fed a church by now, you know what I mean? And so with that...
And we have Rebecca, who's always done.
That's
That girl,
right.
she does
She
it
has
all.
a full
She's like,
farm.
Official.
Yeah.
she's official.
She
That's a
literally
real-
has
yeah.
no one around her home.
Yeah, that's a real homesteader. She's got
She
goats.
started this trend.
She
okay?
did. She did.
She came in an Amish outfit the other day too.
She did? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was so cute.
Was
And
I
she
here?
told the teens, "You guys wish you guys were this cool like me." And I was like, "You go, Becky."
Isn't Holly? Doesn't she do homesteading? Holly?
I don't
I
know.
think I know she has like goats and chickens too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So there's a few people in the church that have already started.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Or maybe never even quit. They've just been born into this.
Yeah.
I know Rebecca for sure.
Oh yeah.
Since I've known her, she's been legit.
She has a
been real.
full-on farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fully self-sufficient. They're almost to an off-grid situation. Like that's what they're working towards, and like just to see the progress that Rebecca goes to our church, by the way, and she's on our worship team. She's amazing. Her and her husband are just Oh my gosh.
The sweetest people ever.
They're so sweet, and yeah, they legitimately. And if you ever just want to walk around a farm and like see what they do and get educated, she loves doing stuff like that.
She does. She's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So definitely like learning how to live off the land pretty much, right? Like returning to the way that life was many years ago. And so in that growing trend, there's a lot of questions that come with that, like, right? Like, how? How and why?
Well, we live, again, I mentioned it before, but we are obviously in Southern California. It's very different than what you guys think, like of your area. But Southern California, there's a lot of suburban houses out here, right? And so when I lived next to a house, I would hear a crow. I mean, sorry, the rooster in the morning.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who has a rooster? We're like not on a farm. I'm literally like right next to the mall, you know?
That's crazy, yeah.
And then there's like a certain law. You're only allowed to have 4 chickens and no roosters. And if you do have backyard chickens in a suburban place, you're called a suburban farmer. So it's like a whole new trend for California people. Isn't that crazy?
Not to be confused with cannabis farmers.
Yeah, and then
They're allowed to have plots and plots out here.
Yeah, and then a crazy statistic, according to the American Pet Products Association, over 3 million new backyard chicken keepers emerged in the U.S. post-2020.
How is it that I only know one? That's crazy.
I know. I mean,
or 2.
I know a
2,
few.
2. Do you?
Yeah, my dad and my stepmom used to do it. My grandpa did it, and I would have at least 2 eggs every morning.
You know what? I actually know what I'm going to give Denise for her birthday this year.
4 chickens.
Yeah, 4 chickens for baby chicks. 1 for each kid.
I'll give it right back.
Dude.
Get duck. She has a pool.
I'll give them to Rebecca
There you go.
so she can make Carlo.
Oh
Hey,
my
listen, I'm
gosh.
not about that life, but props to those who are.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me, like, tell me. I feel like that was a song. What do you?
Tell me why.
There you go. Where was I going?
Do you want me to tell you another fact?
Yeah, tell us another
Sales
fact.
of canning supplies, seeds, and solar panels skyrocketed in 2021 to 2023 and remained strong due to inflation and distrust in the government and food systems.
That's what I'm saying. It all comes down to everyone's just sick and tired of.
Yes, we're tired.
It just came out of a
exhausted.
fear of just like, especially after 2020, everyone realized, man, the government really doesn't know what they're doing.
They don't have my best interest in
Oh,
mind.
they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
actually
for
the
sure.
scary thing, you know.
But at the end of the day, they just realized. I mean, especially toilet paper was the first thing off the shelves. If
Yeah.
you guys remember that.
No survival skills. At
Exactly. So everyone immediately went for the toilet paper for whatever reason. And
You know what? The other day I was at Costco with my husband, and we were eating first before we went to go shop, right?
Priorities.
And right after work, and then we just saw like a line of people just leave with a bunch of toilet paper, and we're like, oh no, it's not starting all over again. And so I think that's how it starts. Like you see other people, because then I go and I'm like, I need to stock on my
yeah,
card.
they know something I don't.
I'm not gonna be the one.
Yeah. I'm gonna be the dealer. You guys should see my garage. Actually,
you have a
Just
stockpile?
Stockpile. I have stock in newspaper actually. Not newspaper, but
It's like, oh,
It's gonna be rough when you run out of toilet paper.
you'll get to read and clean. Am I right? That sounds like a gimmick to me.
You know that in Mexico, you use rocks to clean your stuff.
oh my god.
No, Denise.
No
I've
wonder
been
Julio
charged.
don't like homesteading.
I've been charged pesos for just one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, but
Never in my
before
life.
that. So I don't know
Rocks.
if so my parents lived in or came from Mexico. So when we were young, we would go to Mexico, and we would go when it wasn't as civilized as it is now. So I think that's why I'm like, I don't want to go back to
That
it.
makes
Mind you, we would only go to Mexico like we'd go a few times a year, but we would go for like a month at a time. So we would have to like live the lifestyle.
It's not vacation.
It's not. It wasn't vacation. Now it is. Now we still live in a ranch, but it's a lot more
Civilized.
Civilized. But so I like you would use rocks. They don't.
Denise,
They didn't. Yeah, they didn't.
use rocks?
They
I
used
have a lot of
rocks.
questions.
It's like I was like kind of rough. It's like smooth at least.
Yeah.
Walking down the road and be like, get that rock. That's a good rock.
I personally didn't have to use a rock, but we were literally having this conversation with my mom and dad for Father's Day because we were just trying to learn more of like how was their upbringing. And they're like, we would have to use rocks. We didn't have money for toilet paper. they're like, we didn't have money for gum. So one of the stories that they shared, and it was so sad, was like, it was 12 brothers and sisters with my mom. Wow. And so they didn't have these luxuries. So if they got a gum, they would all take one gum, chew it, and pass it on. And we were laughing because like by the time it got to like the 10th or 11th, there's no more flavor.
Yep.
Yeah. So my husband and I are like, if we're the ones that like, we'll pay somebody, like we'll pay like the Rebeccas, to do these things for us. Like we don't have to go back. Like it's fine. Like, we have people we trust. But I think that's why I have such a bad taste.
That's where she came from.
Yeah.
No wonder. I mean, I'm going to walk around and be like, that's a good rock. Just in case I ever had to.
Yeah.
I mean, I know where to find them.
Just in case.
Yeah. Well, at least you know, you guys, if we suffer through another one of those scenarios, you start off with leaves. You can start off with leaves. I'm sure.
They're all gone.
I'm sure it's allowable, but whatever. Wow, that's a little crazy.
Yeah, and you know that right now this movement is called the modern exodus. Yeah, because many feel like they're leaving Egypt, a system that feels like spiritually
like the Babylon
oppressed.
system.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And disconnected from God's design.
Well, it makes sense, and it's honestly it's really interesting, right? Because out of all the types of parables that the Lord could have used in the Bible, and I know that during that time it was farming and all that, but the fact that it's still something that's so relevant, and even how the farmers of America especially are being like attacked and stuff, there really is like a holistic biblical thing to it, right? And so one of the questions that we have posted here is that it's not just a trend for the sake of a trend, but it really is like a response to something, right? And it really is like a response to the burning out. It's a response to all of that. Like, man, I can't there's so many times where like I drive by rural areas and I'm like, I wonder what life is like, like it's survivable, it's doable, and it's definitely like an acclimation, and like how Denise said, right, it's not that they don't have like a respect for it,
right,
but it's just like it's like you protect the source, right? And like even I know that there's this brand, I forget the name of the brand, to be honest. It's where the one that does the raw milk, raw farms.
Yeah, I think it's like Raw Farms.
And I know that they were like getting attacked for a little bit because they were and I think they were going through a lot of like red tape, because people are considering that those things are not healthy, that they're actually bad for people and all that stuff because they're not processed through any chemical process or whatever. But in reality, that is what our bodies tend to respond to. Like you see the tallow taking off, right? A lot more people like on my Instagram I see constant ads about that. I understand that it's an algorithm, but like there's more of that clean stuff. And I know even with like RFK Jr. going back being in office right now, like how even a lot more places are starting to let go of like the dyes and seed oils and
cooking
things like that.
tallow.
Yeah, because people are really coming back to God's natural design, right? And I think, and to be honest, like even with the homesteading and going back to the land, pretty much, I think there's going to be like this respect. I can see it going to the extreme, right? The hippie movement and all that stuff. Like I can definitely see it because people never know how to live an balanced life, or it's really hard to have that discipline. But like returning to that and really seeing like the things that matter, it reminds me, like I constantly think about it now that you've been posting a lot about Ecclesiastes, how it says that the real price of life is to work hard and enjoy the labor and just rejoice in what the Lord has done. And so a lot of people don't do that, right? It's always about the grind. It's always about moving on to the next thing and, not being able to enjoy where you're at. And homesteading does that. Like I forget this girl's name, but she was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and she was talking about like her experience after she goes to the farmer's market, right? Which I think that hopefully that takes off even more so. But she goes to the farmer's market and then she says that she lays out all her food for the week on the counter and she prays over it. And she like prays over it and she's like, this is the food that's gonna it's gonna make up my body. And I think we forget that like there's such a disconnect between how food really like is you. Like your food is you. Like
it's a
really,
source of fuel for your body.
It creates your cells. It creates your energy. It creates. I'm not really big on biology. I actually failed it 3 times and I cried one time. But it really is that, right? And
you are what you eat.
You are what you eat. Like quite literally. And so throughout the Bible, like you see that about the land, and how even when people, there's like a broken covenant between people, the land suffers. And so like there's such a tie-in to where we come from. And so of course the enemy will try to take us away from that, right? And create these systems that are filled with chemicals, that are filled with processes, that are filled with machinery. And of course there's like there's wisdom and there's awesomeness in being able to use machines to enhance something, but not to alter it, right? But yeah, so
I'm glad you shared all of that, especially about the responsibility, because it makes me think back to the Garden of Eden. We were given the Garden of Eden, and we were supposed to steward it well, right?
Till the land.
And a lot of people are going back to a more simplicity way, but it's a lot of responsibility. Like I'm going, and I just when I bought my house, it didn't have any plants in the backyard. I think like 3 trees, but no like pretty plants, and I'm all about that. So I went and, we started planting, but some of them don't get water, so I have to go and water it myself. And there I am sometimes 9:30 p.m. just watering them each one by one, talking to them, because they respond to talking. And my daughter's like following me, and I'm super glad I'm teaching her responsibility, but it's hard because I have a million things to do at 9:30, not to go water plants outside one by one. And why are people doing things that make you more responsible? Why? Taking care of chickens is extreme responsibility. Especially in different weather conditions, having the proper food, everything that they need, anything, like even with goats, chickens, all of that. You definitely have a lot of responsibility. And I know that you mentioned earlier that you have a lot of things already going on. Just adding something else like that, like
not right now.
No,
exactly.
It's so much work, and it's a lot of like, it can't be controlled, right? Like you can till it, you can do the work and all these things, but at the end of the day, like, because it's life, right? All of these things produce life. They have a life of their own per se, right? Like not a tree hugger type of way, but like they can get rotten, they can go bad, and then to figure out what soil is good for what, like what season, what, like, you know what I mean? Like it requires so much knowledge, but think about it, right? Because people back in the day, they didn't have watches, they didn't have clocks and all that stuff. And so they had to use nature as a source of keeping time, right? They had to use, so it was the seed time and harvest that they would know the times of the festivals for the Lord, that they would know when the Lord, like when things like that were happening. And so now we've become so disconnected from all of that, right? Where it's just like we depend on these man-made things in order for us to be able to keep in tune with whatever's going on out in the world. But like there's so many variables that go into it, a lot of work, I've been watching, I know that your parents have talked about it, like the cowboy way, and how they're just so like how purposeful they have to be with like the cattle and how with the lands, like it all plays a part. And I think that's where like we're just returning back to like stewardship in a way, right? Like in a different realm.
I think that this is just a way for people to connect with God, because all throughout scripture we see farming references as a way to reference as a way to reference who God is and how he interacts with us. And so I think in that way, and even if it's not why you're doing it, I think we find that as we start stepping into that. And I think this plays so well into what we talked about in our last episode of people are just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we're starting to realize the facades of the government and the pharmaceutical companies and all of these things that we're told are supposed to work. We're getting tired of this daily, and Generation Z is noticing this huge trend, and they're going, we don't want that. Like they're noticing burnout and depression and anxiety, and they're noticing that what the pharmaceutical company is saying is just not living up to, what they're advertising. And so I think this is also just ties into that. We just have a new generation. We have a new culture that's observing their past generations going, we don't want that. And so, getting back to that simplicity, connecting with the Lord, and just doing something that requires patience and a process, and there's a peace behind that. There is. And just knowing that, okay, I put the seed in, I watered it, and the rest has to be God. The rest has to be patience. The rest has to be, and doing what I can to protect it, of course. But at the end, like you said, there's so many variables. There's pests, there's bad weather, there's whatever. But it's just, it really is, and like you said, back then they didn't have apps, they didn't have little machines that you can put in the soil to tell you whether it's good or not. They just had to read the plant. They had to look at it and know, this is what's bothering you, this is how I can doctor you up. And it was such I think it just requires that just that supernatural knowledge and that peace and that patience and that getting to know your plant, your land, your soil. And really, I think it's a beautiful process because, like I said, when you read the scriptures, there's so many references to just planting and farming and herding sheep and cattle and all of that. And I mentioned last season, I was like on this binge of Little House on the Prairie, and it's a family of farmers. So like when they talked about their farm, I was just like scripture was literally coming alive just, with these episodes where they're talking about their farm and their wheat and, like storms coming in, destroying everything, and like I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, that makes sense why the scripture did this or that, and it's a beautiful thing. So even if that's not your motivation into getting homesteading, it could just be a health thing. It could just be I want to become self-reliant. Everyone has a different motivation. I think in that you start to feel this just connection with God through it. And like there's a supernatural thing that takes place of, there's a creator.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that too, because I get so excited when I see new buds come. Yeah. And it's like experiencing life like B-U-D. Yeah, B-U-D-S. Because I obviously experienced my own life and I see my children grow up and everything. But just seeing a plant and then it's like a little faster, but seeing life come out and then just being in awe of that. It's like that connection that you're saying. Yeah. We're meant to connect with the soil. We're meant to connect with all these things without sounding like a hippie, but
well, there's even like that practice of grounding, right? Where it's just like where you pick up like the energy from the land that you're in order for yourself to be like centered and be one with nature. Yeah. And so like all these practices that there's something there, right? The holistic and all that stuff, like where there's healing literally in nature, you just have to be aware of what there is and what that means.
And that brings it back to even when God tells Moses, take off your sandals. This is the holy ground. And, back then they wore leather, so there was no disconnect from the ground, when they wore leather on their feet. And so, it's amazing because you're right. Like, I thought that was like grounding. Like, that sounds... Ooh, so I just kind of disconnected from that until I saw a well-known scientist holistic doctor that I really trusted say it, and she was talking about it, and I was just like, maybe, because she said it, maybe there's something to this. So I did. I researched it, and I think it's like the negative ions in the ground versus our positive ions. It's an electrical thing.
Magnetic thing.
Yeah, and so we're high in electricity, and it pretty much just helps cancel out and balance out whatever electrical currents happening in our body. So that's why it helps us with sleep. It balances everything out because it's literally helping cancel out the high electricity in our bodies. It might even be reversed. There might be high electricity in the ground, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's helping balance out those currents in our body. And the science was amazing. And I'm just like, whoa, God, like, you said it first. Like, you said it first. And it always comes back to God said it first this whole time. And it really is beautiful and it's amazing. Just seeing now it's my algorithm is just full of just homesteading stuff and holistic stuff, and it's so amazing because every time I can bring it back to scripture and go, God said it first. He knew. Yeah.
And I think I want to also be careful, like because there's people that are like going gung ho for it, right? Which is awesome. I think that's great. But there's always like these extremist things that happen where it's just like, well, now homesteading people like look at others and it's just like, oh, well, like, why are you doing that? Like, and blah, blah, blah. But there's a purpose and there's a calling in everything, right? And so I think we're all supposed to work together as a society, and to like, the purpose, I guess, is to bring in like, what is it? There's a word for it.
Community.
Because synergy.
Oh, there you go.
Synergy.
Yeah, because I'm thinking isolation is a big thing that you want to stay away from. Yeah. Like you said, some people go gun-ho. Definitely isolating away from community is dangerous.
Yeah, isolation. I could definitely see a lot of people that would go into that realm of isolation where it's just me and mine and that's it. And then we go back to the problem that we had years ago, right? Where people were just so focused in their families that they were no good to their communities because they were just like, oh, it's just me and mine, that's it. But essentially, like, even again, goes back to the Bible, like even in the story of Ruth and Boaz, where and even in the law, right, where it talks about how you make sure that you don't pick your land clean because you want to make sure that there's some left over for foreigners or people that are like living in the outskirts, for them to just be able to come by and eat some of that. And so even in that, like, there's a taking care of your community, right? Because when you raise up cattle, when you raise up animals, when you raise up plants, when you raise up seeds, whatever, it's the intention of serving a community. And so that can be applied in so many different ways, so many different areas. And so, I think there is like that, being careful, right? Where it's also like remembering that it's the creator, not the creation, you know?
And we know somebody at the church who she had to break that mentality. She was all holistic. She did everything, according to the holistic doctors, the correct way. She was living by every, vitamin and every pill and every diet that was put on her. And she was really strict and she was really disciplined. But yet these diseases that were on her were just not going away. Yeah. And it wasn't until she shifted her thinking and remembering that it's God who's her provider and God who's her healer that she suddenly got broken free from all of that. And now she doesn't need to live by all of this strict dieting and strict, pill taking and holistic stuff because it had such a strong hold on her mind. So it's right. I am not against holistic stuff, obviously. Like none of us are. Yeah. And everyone in this church will teach like, hey, it's better God's way. Yeah. It's better by what he provided us. And not what man tried to do to alter it and make it better. God's way is the best way. He knew what he was doing, So I'm about taking all natural, organic, just grown the biblical way foods, but it can become a stronghold and it can become, this is my healing as opposed to God is my healing. Yeah. And you can definitely get healed by food. And food is our medicine. Food is our energy. We are what we eat. It makes up our image and how we grow our hair and even, but it can absolutely become a stronghold if you forget who created that food and who's implemented this into our dieting and into our structure.
Yeah. Anything else? No.
And then we have City Girl over here that's just listening.
She's like, I'll support you guys.
But there's a balance too, right? Because, like, for example, I know that Denise, like, you do the sunbathing stuff, right? And like in a way, and that made me think of like a little cat just sunbathing in the sun. But and I know that you're also like big on going out and like doing your running at so it's not like just because you're not like raising chickens doesn't mean that
there's no one way of doing it.
Right. There's no one way of doing it.
I'm all for the whole nature. I mean, that's like what you said, my running place, or not right now, I'm not running anymore, but I was. But it's in the nature. I love going to Mexico because Mexico is very much, at least where I'm at, I'm in the ranch. It's very homesteading. You only eat the fruit that's in season. And so I think for a lot of people who don't have that experience of going back, like that's such a big culture shock, talking about culture shocks, because when you go to Mexico in certain seasons, you can't always have a strawberry. You can't always have a mango. Like it's literally what's in season. And so I love that because it goes back to, a lot of the times, especially in the Western society or in California or wherever in the States, you get to have whatever fruit you want at any time. But if you're a true homesteader, then you know that only certain fruits grow in certain seasons unless it's, genetically modified and whatnot.
So it's a phony.
Yeah. It's a phony.
It's imported. But if it's imported, then it's been preservatives.
Exactly. And so I totally, like I said, I live that life when I go out there. I understand. I love it, but it's just not.
Yeah,
it's not a full-time gig.
It's not a full-time gig for me.
Yeah. But again, that's why it goes back to everyone's different. Absolutely. And God's blessed us because you don't have to be a homesteader, but you can support the homesteaders. Absolutely. I know you're always buying, organic, and you're buying from the farmers markets, and there's still a way to do it without having to commit to that lifestyle because that would be near impossible for someone who's as busy as you are, and you're over here taking over the world and volunteering for everything, and that and it would restrict you from being able to do the ministry that God has called you to do. Right. Yeah. So that's what we're saying. It's just at the end of the day, not everyone's called to own chickens, and we're not saying that this is you have to do it in order to be closer to God.
But you can definitely sow into it.
You can sow into it.
Not only
you
that, I was going to say you actually do homesteading because homeschooling is homesteading.
Yeah, that is true.
It's a huge thing, especially with the curriculums that we have right now in the state, the public school.
For sure.
Moving away from that mentality, that thinking, that's a movement of homesteading.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one last question, if
please.
That's okay.
That'll be our closing question.
Okay. So the last question is, if you could only grow one thing or have one thing and consider that your homesteading thing.
Cows.
What would it be?
1,000%. Need I say steak?
I'm all thinking milk.
Well, that too.
You could be like Dwight, just cut a piece of meat off.
That way you can still have the horse. Have a horse. Cows for sure.
Mine would be chickens. I can do anything and everything with eggs.
That's true. I would say cow though, to get my milk and my meat.
Yeah.
Chicken
I'm
still-
surprised I thought you would say horse, but what can you do with horse?
I wouldn't eat a horse.
Yeah, that's why. But did you say for food or just have it?
Whatever you want to do.
Only
whatever you
one
wanna-
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
As a homesteady thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, she said ducks. Like,
I said ducks, and only because their eggs are bigger and they're really cute.
I gotta try a duck egg.
Yeah. Oh,
probably-
dude, ostrich eggs too. Those are, but ostriches are just so mean.
Violent.
They're violent and aggressive. I would not do it. But ducks, I'm down. I've been around them.
Look at that. We have a whole community now.
But what's your kind? Oh, you said chicken.
Chicken. See, there we go. We can all just put our homestead together.
Yeah. There you go. Dang, I really want some raw milk now. I think
Oh
I'm
my
gonna go buy some after this.
You're gonna go buy a cow.
I'm gonna go buy a cow. Honestly, that's a dream. I want to have cows
Put it
so
in your condo.
bad. But with my squirrel, I want to have a cow.
The community
not
one?
just one
Who
cow. I
brought
want to
a
have
cow,
cows.
but you feed it?
Cows.
Dude. I want to have that. That is a goal of mine for sure, and I will have it in Jesus' name.
And a cowboy.
And a cowboy.
You
Yeah.
gotta have cowboy with the cows.
That's right. Can't have a chicken boy. I want a cowboy. Or a horse boy. It's a cowboy for a reason. All right, you guys. On that note, thank you so much for dropping in for season 6. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know. Are you guys doing homesteading? Like, what does your homesteading look like?
Yes.
Is it sourdough? Is it chickens? Is it cows? Hit me up. Is it horses? Is it ducks? Is it plants? Like, there's a variety of things.
Vegetables.
Squirrels. I was in the homesteading with squirrels.
She was committed for a while.
I was committed for a while. We had a whole routine. It was really
Little
cute.
charms.
I'm just kidding. It was mental torment for some time. I didn't sleep for some nights. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next week where we will talk about. Stay tuned. Bye.
Adios.